So happy New Year to everybody. I got to tell you that I spent Christmas for the first time with my grandsons. There are three of them, two 4-year-old twins and one 3-year-old. So you can imagine how that was. It was delightful, actually. And one of the things that I know about children, which is much like people with dementia and Alzheimer's, is that one of the ways to get good behaviors out of them is to redirect them. Nursery rhymes, silly jokes, that kind of thing. So the silly joke I have for you this morning is what's black and white and red all over? Very good. I'm so proud of you. Newspaper, exactly. But it's also something that I like to key into. How many of you have seen this car around? Great. I strategically park it every time there's a meeting where you have to see it from the parking lot when you come up. But a lot of people, that's pretty small print on the side. Anybody know what the print says on the side of my car? Yeah, it says Gelbman Law PLLC, elder law attorney, not elder care attorney, elder law attorney. And then the next thing, when people figure out what that says on the side of my car, and I've even had people with a phone take pictures of the side of my car to capture this information. But the first thing they ask me if they look at it is, what the heck is that? Because people just don't have a concept of what elder law is. No one's heard of it before. It hasn't been around a long time. So I thought I would tell you a little bit, aside from just talking about me, which is my favorite subject, I would talk a little bit about elder law in general. And one of the things that's really important, I think, to know about elder law is that it requires a lot of special knowledge. And if you look at Holly and you look at me and you look at Phil and Jim Cox and Simon Stapleton and Ari, right? You're still there, right? We all went to law school. We all learned about contracts. We all learned about property. Well, Simon won't have learned about constitutional law. Nobody really teaches elder law in school. So this is something that we learn and become specialized in a different way. They don't test it on the bar exam. But we all have that regular legal knowledge. But what elder lawyers know are the regulatory schemes that apply to Medicaid, the regulatory schemes that apply to nursing homes, and lots of other things in between. We also know how to write wills and trusts and powers of attorney and all those things. The other thing I think it requires, and I think that this is most important of all, is an attitude of tolerance and the respect that it takes to deal with older people in a gentle way and to understand and respect the fact that they are not children. They're adults with a long life of experience. They have some issues that they need your help with, but it's really important to have a different kind of attitude than you might have in a different setting. On the flip side of that, it sometimes requires a very objective, very firm, sometimes even, I want to say aggressive, the right word is assertive, for others on the behalf of the older person. And that includes family members sometimes. It's many times happened where I'm in a room with the children of older people and the older person, and I always will sit the older person right next to me, where I can sort of reach out and just, touch their hand or whatever and assure them that I am there for them. It doesn't matter who's paying the bill. And sometimes I have to take the children to task. So I think that's really important. Oops, that went too fast. The last one, and this is also just something that you will not find from your average attorney. Lots of good attorneys in town, but most of them do not have any idea about the aging process and the effect that it has on your client, whether they can hear you or not, whether they can see you clearly or not, whether they have mental capacity issues that prevent them from understanding what you're saying or from making decisions rationally. Those are all things that are extremely important in our practice and that we need to be taught to look for. So that's a little bit about elder law generally and why it's different from other practice areas. The bread and butter of my practice, and I'm talking specifically about my practice now, a lot of what I do does actually center around powers of attorney. And the reason that that's the case is, in my view, a power of attorney is far more important than a will. The law will sort out a will for the most part, but if somebody is not able to make decisions for themselves without a power of attorney, you are, as they say, SOL. And I'll give you just one brief example. I had a case where a husband and wife were together, and the husband lost his ability to function, and they put him in a nursing home, had really bad dementia, couldn't do anything. All of the bills were in husband's name, not wife, right? And the wife wanted to cut off the cable TV. It was like $35 a month. She wanted to keep that $35 in her pocket for other reasons. Could not cut off her own cable bill without a power of attorney. Now forget the banking and all those other things, which many people sort that out. They put themselves on as joint or whatever it is, but nobody thinks about all these little things that happen. So that's really important to think about. The other thing that comes my way a lot are disputes surrounding powers of attorney. I had a very complicated one where the mother was in the nursing home, brother had power of attorney, but it turns out he had hidden mother from his own brother and his uncle for 9 years. They had no idea where she was, what was being happened to her. They found her, and it turned out they also had a power of attorney, and it was a matter of whose power of attorney trumps now. It turned out that the nursing home in question had only a medical power of attorney for brother. So he didn't have the ability to make money decisions and all those things. They didn't even look at it. All right. So that stuff happens all the time. I do simple wills. Those are probably pay most of my bills. But more importantly than that, I try to capture the information that will allow me to avoid probate altogether for people who are sort of mid-range income and less. There's no reason to go through all that trouble if you do the planning up front. Also, transferring property during someone's lifetime. A lot of people think of this as long-term care planning financially to make them eligible for Medicaid or Veterans Administration. Very hard to do these days. I guess you'd agree with me that certainly for a single person, almost impossible to do. But if you think about it far enough in advance, there's plenty of things you can do. Care planning assistance with families and long-term care. This goes above and beyond the financial aspects. It has to do with the care, which I think most of you will agree people need someone to advocate for them if they are in any kind of facility. And what that means is actually scheduling and attending care planning meetings in nursing homes to make sure they are getting the care that they need. Most people don't think of that as a legal function, but it absolutely is. Again, I know the Medicaid regulations and the regulations that govern nursing homes and assisted livings that require them to do certain things. Most family members have no clue, and they just kind of show up for these things and they're like, that's not enough. Thank you, Jen. So when you're doing caregiving from a legal standpoint, you need a health care power of attorney. You need a general power of attorney. Often you can use what's known as a representative payee, where the Social Security benefits are paid directly to you or the nursing home instead of the person that's in there. Saves a lot of trouble. And then there's all sorts of other documents that are often needed by hospitals or doctors' offices or nursing homes. There's just a few of them. And as I said, to actually attend the care planning meetings. Then you get into the really interesting stuff, at least in my book. You might disagree, Ari might disagree, I don't know. Guardian and conservatorship proceedings when there is no POA in place and you need someone to take care of someone's decisions. You end up going to court and getting a judge to decide who will take care of them and make those decisions for them. Again, disputes. In this case, disputes among heirs. They're delightful, I have to tell you. I always have to tell people there is no estate until mom dies. Okay? So stop fighting about that. This is very interesting but very heartbreaking: fraud, neglect, exploitation, and abuse. Why me? You could go to any of these guys for the stuff I talked about before, and I think this is true of most of you, but I exclusively practice elder law. Don't do divorces, no car accidents, no DUIs, don't do any of that. I keep way abreast of everything that's happening in the legal community, whether it's healthcare related, whether it's regulation related. I'm a member of NALA, which is the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, and VELA, which is the Virginia chapter of the same thing, where I get lots of information constantly, daily, more than I can keep up with. Very important. I'm well connected with lots of allied professionals. Thank you. I think this is my last slide. So with my little car, why is that important? This is very important. Because I will go to your client. I will go to their home. I'll go to a nursing home. I'll go to an assisted living. I'll go to their hospital bed. I do not charge mileage or anything extra for that service. It's part of what I do. So that's why my car is so important to remember on that. Legal remedies, going to court for things, I don't like them. Believe it or not, I don't like them. I would rather find a practical solution. One good example of this, I'm going to go over, I'm sorry. One really good example of this is somebody that called me and told me that they had been told that they had to have a guardianship for their son who was getting ready, a disabled son, severely disabled son, who was getting ready to turn 18. And they had been told that, and I said, well, why? And they said, well, I got to be able to take care of their money. And I was just like, well, where does this money come from? Well, he gets Social Security disability. And I'm like, well, are you his payee? Are you his representative payee? And they said, well, yes. And I said, then there's nothing to worry about there. I said, does he have any other assets? Does he own any property? Does he own a car? Does he have any other? No, just the Social Security. Okay, so that takes care of the money, and you're his mother, so you're empowered to take care of his personal decisions as to his doctors and treatment and things like that. I said, so what is it you need a guardianship for? She says, I don't think I do. And I said, I don't think you do either. And you certainly don't need a lawyer. So does that build my business? Not immediately. Do I get any, do I bill for that kind of advice? Absolutely not. But when somebody says, hey, who do you think would be a good person to go talk to about this, that, or the other? Whose name do you think comes to mind first? Yeah. So the other thing I do is I make a very concentrated effort to keep my costs low, which means my clients' costs are low. I practice out of my home. I meet people in the business center in my apartment complex or in their home. It costs them nothing. I don't charge for mileage. I don't charge for stamps. I don't charge for photocopies. I don't charge for any of that stuff, unless it's a very large job. If it's a $300 copy job, I'm going to pass that cost on. Listen, litigating, that's not a small, it's small when you're litigating, right? I think you guys know my reputation is that I'm a straight shooter, and I tell it like it is. And my job is not to complicate things, and I see things from other lawyers that are wherefore and blah, 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 and I'm like, what? We don't need to do that, and the courts don't even like it anymore. So if you got a problem, talk with an elder law attorney. I suggest any of us that come here. Call Doris if you feel you need an attorney, and she'll tell you whether you need an attorney or not. And I'll tell you all about those other things. Call me, the first half-hour consultation, or visit with me, always free. I feel like you would not buy shoes without trying them on. Right? I would not hire an attorney without trying them on either. It's also an opportunity for me to decide whether I want to work with you. Because sometimes that's not the case. So that's me. I always have a little reminder of what's red and white. This was actually yellow originally, and I painted it with nail polish. So it even has my little sign on the side.